Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Jared Naru, and welcome back to the Capitalgpt podcast. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Timir Pyladh, aka Finance Fundi, aka everything under the sun. Tim and I go way back. We've been best friends for about 6 years, and yeah, if you guys follow me, follow Tim, you know that we very much integrate in each other's lives. But Tim is talking to us today in regards to his whole journey. If I'm starting from content creation, in the acting space, then moving over to the finance space, then content creation again, merging with finance and content creation. So thanks for coming on, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's really exciting to be on the next few steps of your journey. And I think this is the best way to showcase what you do.
yeah. Appreciate it. The thing is, guys, Tim will probably be a regular guest. As we generally have these type of conversations. Um, but I think now if we can record them and also then look back on like, okay, these are the things we said, uh, um, like in 2025, and we look back on 2027 or 2029, we're like, oh, this actually happened or whatever, and it's a track record. But I think let's dive deep into your story and what people don't know about Tamir Pyladh. Um, Talk us through your journey on um starting content creation or starting in the acting space. And how was that um financially? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have a desire to start acting, to start content creation. How does it play a role? And what can you think of it in regards to like finance? Because I think everyone assumes when you get into like acting and stuff, you're gonna make tons of money. But what is the actual reality of it?
So, just so you get a timeline of when that was about 2017, 2016 that I had only been trying to get more into acting. I'm giving away my age. I matriculated 2014 and I gone the conventional route of studying as my folks wanted. And then that 2016, 2017, I said, this is the time to pursue something that I feel so close in my heart. Uh, it doesn't relate to finance. Let's just outright say that. I used to
But I think the speaking about it, because people have a desire. So my thing is like people have a desire to do it, but they don't think about the financial implications of like, listen, you may not get gigs for 6 months to a year if you genuinely pursue it, and how do you plan for that? And if so, and then also when is the time to then be like, okay, I really need to get a job now. I'll do this costings on the side, you know. So that's kind
Mm,
of the way I kind of want to relate to it.
mm. I think I think you bring up a very important point. I mean, the thing with castings is they're not every day. And when they are there, because you know it's an opportunity to pursue your dream, you're like, I'm going to go for the casting. So you outlay the cash already. Who's paying for the Uber there and back? Who's paying for the lunch that you're going to have to buy whilst waiting in the queue? Or the vending machine that you're now using because, and vending machines aren't affordable because you're there on location. You know, these are ghost costs that add up in that journey to the come up. And you can't really budget for it because they're ghost costs. Nobody expects them to come about. What you can do though, and this is my idea around it, is a very similar idea to what you just brought up. You have a 9 to 5 that allows you to have a recurring income. This recurring income, you then take a portion out of and you say, this is going to be what I'm allowed to spend for costing transport, costing food meals, costing outfits. You know, these are things that you have to budget for then. And if you exceed that, then obviously you're going to be eating into your month. Because remember, there's going for the casting, but there's also getting the gig.
Yeah.
And it's not guaranteed that you're going to get the gig at every casting. And majority of people in the entertainment space will tell you they've been to more castings than they've gotten gigs.
Yeah.
So it's also balancing that. Getting the casting and going to the casting is amazing, but then it's not going to necessarily be return on investment. So that's also something to prep yourself for.
Yeah, I think it's very valid. I think. because myself included in regards to like I'm more in the casting space for commercials, and I still have a 9 to 5, and like I've been a year in and I've only got a 1 gig. So the thing is like that's not even common for most people in the space to get a gig. So if you want to go and pursue it, like you said, have the 9 to 5, have that, because not everything's guaranteed. Um, I think, yeah, I think that in itself, you going into acting and pursuing that and building your skill in it, then we saw you move over into content creation and moving that over to a platform, um, like Instagram and YouTube and stuff. And I think seeing that and you having a desire for that to be online and be a presence, and then having the desire for community, you started dubbing content creators. And I think people in Durban, a lot of people do know dubbing content creators, but I don't think people genuinely like know, like, this was like what, a 23-year-old kid just like, let's just start an organization just for creatives to collab and stuff. And I think talk us through the journey of starting dubbing content creators. um yeah, it's I don't know, last year was sorry, but I don't think it's documented online. So I think it's necessary.
It's not.
Yeah.
That was that was 2019. Uh, that was 2019 June. Actually, from the time that we're recording this, it's more or less about 7 years to the date. 6 years to 7 years to the date. Oh yeah, 6 years because we were 2025. Uh, I'm in finance, not in math. So I think yeah, that June we had been creating. I had been creating videos for about 3 months at that point in time. So not very uh, into 29. And I realized that there were also other people that obviously had been creating content online, no matter what the type of content is. I mean, we when we eventually had a formal gathering, we realized exactly the different types of content that we could have. And come June of that year, I sat literally in my room right now where I'm at. I literally sat and I said, you know, let's let's go out and find people that are like-minded, that are creating content, that are within our locality, and we can work together with.
Yeah.
And that was when I started voice noting everyone on Instagram. Uh, and lo and behold, one of the most important people that I'm very lucky to say I did voice note at that time is somebody that I'm talking to right now, Mr. Jared World himself, um, who was receptive enough to reply and want to actually have like a conversation with me. That's not often that people even listen to voice notes from strangers on Instagram.
Honestly, right? I debated with myself to even like go to this thing. So he voice notes, he's like, "Yo, Jared, like love your content. See what you've done with like Vinny and the guys. Like you guys start creating content and stuff, and I will a similar thing." And I was like, "Sounds dope. Like he's really good at selling himself." But I'm like, this guy has like 1,000 followers. Like for him to start like a creator hub and stuff, like, because for me at the time, or even like now to an extent, it's like you look at what the person has done, right? And for them to listen to the people, whatever, like they have to have a track record. And at the time, I'm like, who's this guy? But then I was like, I looked at his friend like he's a legit guy. He's a legit person. And I bought into Timir Pyladh before I bought into Timir Pyladh as the influencer or that type of thing. And I think you as a person sold yourself so much, and everyone that joined like saw what I saw with regards to like your follow count, whatever, but you still had the desire, and you had the personality where people bought into you, and you're a very good salesperson because you sold yourself so well. So because of that, I think we've hit it off when we met at the DCC event that you've had with a bunch of creators there. Uh, it just like, regardless of how where double content is now, where we're not really doing anything with it, but what you've done, right, for the creative space in Durban in itself, right? And I don't think people would know or acknowledge it unless you've been in the space. But the amount of people that work together now just because of Durban content creators, and like it's actually insane of because my network, a bunch of my network stems from Durban content creators. Even though I'm in Cape Town, it stems from Durban content creators, and yourself as well. A bunch of other creators that we've met, you can see them still collaborating. Like Valencia and Mwanda are still shooting content together. And those are people that met within the Durban content creator space. CM Thunder and Mwanda again are shooting. So I think on exactly you and Mwanda as well. So like big ups to that. And I think like even with regard to like creators now, that we don't see, but they've met like through each other and that type of stuff. So yeah, it's giving you flowers in that. But I think let's talk the struggles of starting an influencer organization, and trying to monetize that. What was the struggles? I mean, I've worked with you with urban content creators, but what was the, I know the struggles, but I think from your perspective, what was the struggles for urban content creators? What could we have changed? And what do you think were the circumstances? Because again, we came out of COVID, or we're still in COVID. So I think a lot of people blame COVID, but at the same time, it is a factor. So what do you think? What was your struggles, firstly? And then how do you think you could have improved? Or what changes could you have made to make it last longevity wise?
Um, I brought it down to three factors,
Yeah.
and that was that personally, at that point in time, as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, however old I was, I didn't have enough experience.
Yeah.
That was number one. And like experience in managing a business. And that was my first business. Registered 10th of October, 2019. First business you put out there. And I'm so excited with it.
Yeah.
It's not just about registering it. It's also about now doing work. And I didn't really know what work to do. And I think that moves on to my second point. Because it was an initiative in its own, it was like the first of the first that was being done at the time. There's no blueprint to follow.
Yeah.
There's no way you're like, oh, that guy did it in X country or that guy worked in that country. The closest were probably like talent agencies that were out. But nobody, if people wanted to talk to a talent agency, they would go to a talent agency. You know, we were trying to niche up, trying to become something that wasn't.
Yeah.
So that people could still hold on to their own uniqueness, their own talent, not to be molded to a brand, but be kept within what their brand was, and for now companies to buy into that. That was probably the second point. Struggling on direction based on that. And then the third and the final one was now resource management. Because even when I had people buying in, or even when I had capital to like push into it, what was I investing in?
Yeah, exactly.
What was I telling people, or what were we telling people to do? And what was it going to amount to? Even if I had people doing what I wanted and I had all the money in the world. I think those are three very important pillars that looking back, I've got experience now. There's no way I could have changed how much experience I had, but maybe having a mentor in the talent agency space who could have like told me the flaws of what they experienced that we could cover. Perhaps having somebody who, again, had been down a similar road with maybe HR management and told me how I could maybe develop this idea. And lastly, maybe somebody who could have just seen to the financial aspect of it as well as project manage that together with everything that we were doing. If I had those two people a little bit better enforced and in the group, yeah, I think that would have. Well, I'm gonna throw it back at you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Like you were part of it. You know what was something that you think maybe I didn't mention that you think maybe we could have.
To be honest, I think we were too early
Mm.
with the product. The thing is, when it comes to the South African market, we're always 5 years behind. So at the time when we started it, it was peaking in America. And we saw where the market was going, but we've created the product too soon. I think developing the community and that type of stuff, but I think when it came to like pushing brands and collaboration with brands, they didn't have the budget for it. They didn't want to work with for example, a management for influencers at that point didn't know about it. So I think at the time that was a disadvantage for us. I think we started it maybe a year ago, when it came to like bringing in that stuff, bringing in like partnerships and that type of stuff. I think we could have been a lot better. But again, I think we were two young guys that were pushing something where people look down on that. Um, so I think that, and then I think secondly, um, was relations, like who were we building relationships with that we could have changed. If we started off trying to build relationships with marketing directors at companies. For example, if you went to a Unilever and just made a relationship with a marketing director and say, hey, we have a bunch of influencers. Like if we like were in the people spaces, I think I think this is something that people can look at and be like, can take from, is that South African market is completely different to the US market or the European market. For you to close a client in South Africa, it may not take one meeting with them. It may take 3 meetings, and meetings mean like seeing each other, and someone needs to build a relationship with you, and be like, oh, I trust this person, I know about you, and that could take 3 to 6 months sometimes. So you got to consistently be in each other's space, be in that person's space. So if we found ourselves being in those spaces more, or tried to be, I think that could have made a huge impact on the Durban content creators. uh yeah.
Mm.
But
Um, 1 second. My battery is dying on my laptop. Took you 1 second.
go for it.
I was quickly gonna get my charger.
And welcome back to the break, guys. This is an ad break for make sure you subscribe at Capitalgbt. We're doing the things. We have a bunch more guests lined up. So we subscribe, like. Also leave your comments down below of like questions that you have. For example, if you have one for Timir, leave it down in the comments. And the next podcast that is on, then we'll reference that. Um, yeah,
Sorry about that.
it's fine. I did it.
It's plugged in.
Uh, yeah, like I was saying, with Devon content creators, that's what we could have done. Could have improved on. But we never know. Maybe we'll make a comeback soon when we have when we feel so. Company still registered, still have all the pages, still have network. If we want to come back, we can come back any day. Uh,
Well,
yeah. So let's talk. Let's talk. Okay, you going from Durban content creators, still working in the finance space, which helped you fund Durban content creators, right? And most people didn't know that unless they met you. Uh, let's talk about you being in the finance space, and what made you get into the finance space firstly, and then secondly, how can people get into the finance space? Because people are looking for jobs. I think the main factor for me of making this podcast is helping. It's South Africans helping South Africans in the finance market, right? South Africa has the lowest youth unemployment rate. How can we teach kids or young adults that are coming into the workspace, how can you get a job? Um, what side hustles can you do? How can we help boost uh, jobs, basically? And I think people that are looking to get into the finance space, how can they do that? And what is your journey like?
so I think I'm gonna first answer the question of how people can get in. And honestly, it's one of the minimalistic barriers to entry to become a financial advisor. But in saying that, being a financial advisor itself, so you can get the title, you can get the role, but I think a lot of people hit and miss with it because they see financial advising and then they see sales,
Yeah,
and it's two very different aspects of the entirety of the role. So you can get in, but staying in is what
yeah,
people use out on because they don't do advice, they do sales. So I think you need a very good foundation for that. So when you do get in, again, least barriers to entry, you literally don't even need a matric. You can get in and be under supervision for 2 years and then get what is referred to as a RE5 exam, a sales representative exam. And you can literally be in the industry quite some time thereafter. I believe you didn't need obviously accreditation qualification thereafter, but I mean, again, to enter into the industry, next for Nurat, there's nothing there that's required. And that for me is the most marketable aspect of it. You know, you can get into the industry and you can start earning an income. For me, I didn't get in as a financial advisor. I got in as admin, and I worked into an accounts manager's role in a company. And when I was with the company, um, great aspect to it. You know, they gave me a very good foundation in finance, which is what helped me later on, and corporate understanding of the world as a whole. It's one of the big uh, companies in South Africa as a whole. So
It is. So it's a big,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a very big company. So like getting to that point and learning everything from there within a 4-year span of my life was really what set the precedent for my financial journey as a whole. Um, and yeah, I got to work behind a desk in that way because I never really saw clients. I never really gave financial advice. So if I was chucked out into the road, I knew financial concepts and I knew financial basics like budgeting and debt management. I knew that. But if I was to be sat face to face with a client and asked, you know, to render advice, I don't know the next thing about the next thing.
yeah,
Um, so it was then that I joined another insurance practice at the time as a financial advisor to learn what it was like to render financial advice. And there's a gentleman that actually taught me everything I know about financial advice. Kevin Yageser. He actually like molded me into understanding what it would be to ask for a client's financial needs, what it would be to then prompt that client. He said, Tim, when you're giving advice, you're not doing the talking. You're not telling, you are listening.
yeah,
And I think that's the biggest key I can give to anyone is in the financial sector, the key component is to listen out to what it is that the other person is telling you about their situation so that you can gather as much information as possible to not make a decision for them, but to guide them or advise them so that they can make a decision. Um, with the information, they are just the vehicle. And where we guide them is how you put petrol in that vehicle.
yeah. That's solid. Solid. Appreciate that. I think based on as we're talking about you being a financial advisor and practicing that, I think something that people can learn from is from people's mistakes. So what is the number one mistake that you've seen most people do in their finances, and how can they avoid doing that? And then another thing is, what if I think to go on the positive side, what is the thing that you've seen people have done the best that they could look to do in their finances?
Uh, Three different things, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The worst thing is having access to money that you need for other things.
Mm.
If you know you get paid that big lump sum at the end of the month, you've got a birthday coming up, you've got somebody else, maybe a significant other, maybe it's Christmas time of the year, etc., and that money is sitting in your account, knowing it should go towards groceries, rent, petrol, because it's accessible, ends up not going for what it's supposed to. So that's number one. And this will even take toll in a bonus at the end of the year. If you guys are getting your bonuses, same thing. I've seen this happen. Number two, a very bad practice is when people want to do something and they say they want to do something and they keep wanting to do something, they never get it done.
Yeah.
And people hate this word, and I'm sorry, I'm swearing. It's the big B word. It's the budget.
Mm.
You gotta put together a budget. You've gotta really, and it can be basic, literally handwritten on your phone, notepad, like very, very simple. Just so you keep account of what's supposed to be where and what happened to what. I'm not saying go and see an accountant. I'm not saying go and see a financial advisor. You can do this in your own time. Okay? So it's actually in your bank statements. Chat GPT. I rest my case. Thank you. And last but not least, it's probably not accounting for those expenses that come up.
Yeah.
And when I say those expenses, I mean, oh, a flat tire, medical expense, needing to get something replaced in the house. These things happen. It's part of life. But that's what actually hurts people in the long run. It's when they don't cater, when they don't expect unexpected expenses. It sounds funny to say, but it's the reality of it. That's what actually sets people behind. And you hear people 3-4 years down the line talking about one incident that happened 4 years back that they're now behind on their finances for. It's because they unfortunately didn't have a plan for it. If you're already there, you can plan to pay that back to yourself.
Yeah.
And work behind that. So this is what I've done. My best practice that has worked with a lot of clients and will continue to work with a lot of clients is easy, is separating your money. All banks have this feature where you can have a call account. Some of them call it a pocket savings. There's just different marketing names for it.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's a call account. And you can call from that account every single day and it comes immediately into your account. If you're not sure what it is with your bank, go to your bank branch at the time because it's important. It'll take not even 30 minutes, depending on the time of day.
Like a saving,
It'll take, sorry?
like a savings account.
Not a savings account. It's a call account.
Okay.
It's different. You do earn interest in the account.
Okay.
So it is similar in that light. But what it does is it separates the money that you can spend in your check or your current account. Okay. And in that account, you can now go out, you can spend what you know is now your spending money and budget for that spending money every month. The rest of that money goes into the core account. You earn interest on it. So it's not even like, and then when it comes time to pay the rent for the month, boom. When it comes time to pay there for whatever XYZ need that you might have, you take it out of there. You don't need to go into your fixed deposit. You don't need to go to your 32-day notice, take money out of anything else. You go to your core account. Practice that's worked. A lot of businessmen use this practice and it's worked for years on years and it's easy to access on your phone. So even if I do it where I'm standing in the line in the queue for something, either at a restaurant or at a grocery store, and I quickly transfer money across, I know that's the money that I'm going to need. And when I don't need it, guess where it sits? In the core account earning interest.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good advice. That's very good advice. Yeah, I think a lot of people go check with your bags, speak to your banks, whatever. Just call them, whatever. Find it out. It's a good practice, I would say. Speaking about day-to-day notice and that type of stuff, I think a lot of people know they need to start saving, start investing. How do people get started in investing? I think that's people don't realize how easy it is. Like you could go to your bank and be like, hey, I want to invest this in stocks, help me. But what would you say is the best practice to start investing for the everyday person? And I think once we get done with that, let's talk about like some of the actually ones that get in like proper investing. Yeah, but let's say the everyday person, how would they start investing?
So I would say before you start investing, have an emergency savings so that everything else that I spoke about makes sense. So put that money aside, whether you put it in the fixed deposit, whatever the case may be, have your emergency savings first. My rule of thumb is 10,000 Rand per head. So if you are looking after yourself only and everybody else in the house is financially dependent, they don't need you, you just need 10,000 Rand for yourself. That's hospital admission fees usually covered and maybe one night stay over with bloods, etc. data. And there's other things that 10,000 Rand will probably get you away. Okay? That's what you can work towards. So once you've done that, start investing. What do you start investing on? I would say your tax-free savings, because any other vehicle that you're going to choose is taxed. So whatever interest rate they quote is still going to be minus the tax rate. So why would you invest in anything else? And the way that works, a few numbers I'm going to throw it out. You can invest up to 3,000 Rand a month over a financial tax year. Or alternatively, you can put in a lump sum during the tax year of 36 grand. What is the tax year? Just so I rewind a bit. Tax year starts at the 1st of March every year, ends on the 28th of Feb the following year.
Yeah, I think coming back to the question on now the people that want to get involved in investing, they want to get involved in being more involved in the investing process instead of just putting your money into a tax-free saving or S&P 500 or the JSE top 40. What can they do to be like, okay, I want to invest in like the JSE stocks, I want to invest into the US stock exchange. What go about to I have to go to learn the markets, learn which company can I should I invest in, which one I shouldn't. Yeah, so what do you think the process would be there in that?
So the way I look at it is as follows. I look at it as a car.
Mm,
Not everyone drives the same car, but the car that you drive is it dictates what you're willing to spend on, whether it's spending on petrol, whether it's spending on the type of car. And some people have money but don't want to buy a luxurious car.
yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it's very dependent on your car. And that car dictates three different factors.
Mm,
The car dictates how risk savvy you are. Are you wanting to go for a very aggressive investment? Or are you very conservative? What's your time horizon? So, do you want the investment to finish at the end of this year? Do you need the money to grow by the end of this year? Do you need to grow by the end of constantly grow? But I think we've seen a lot of graphs nowadays of all investments, they go up and down. And last but not least, it's how much are you willing to invest? So, based on the factors, you can very easily dictate where it is that you want to sit. If you're looking for, and I'll go on both sides of the spectrum. If you're looking for something that is very conservative, something like a fixed deposit in a bank account, that'll probably be your type of investment. If you're looking for that aggressive investment, something that's going to pay you a passive income, something that's going to have a longer time horizon, look at some stocks and even look at some stocks that are high dividend pay. I would use some tools that are freely available online, like investing.com/today. They literally can filter out different types of stocks for you that are in South Africa. If you want US stocks, like you said, they even have US stocks that you can go onto and you can check out. And you can filter it based on high dividend paying, or you can filter it based on recent ROI over the past 6 months, 3 months, 9 months to a year.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, based on that, you can review that. My ultimate question to a lot of people that take that journey or are ready for that next step is always, what do you want your money to do for you, or what are you saving towards?
Yeah.
Because I think that's saving and investing is all good and well, but there must be some sort of final goal at the end of that. Otherwise, ultimately, you're just putting money in the car and hoping that it'll keep going, but you don't know where to put it and
I
why
think
you're
it
putting it
depends
there.
on your person, right? So some people are saving or investing to get a certain goal. But I think for most people that want to invest and be committed to what they're investing in is generational wealth building. And most people, like most successful people, successful families, do have investments to grow over the years. If you put money in Capitec 20 years ago, you're chilling
Mm,
now, that type of thing. So it's that type of thing that I think you want to build for your family and build for yourself and have access to it. But again, at the same time, if you didn't put into Capitec, you put it into a BlackBerry, your money's gone. So again, it's again, like you said, risk tolerant. What are you willing to risk? Because you looked at BlackBerry like 10 years ago, you would
mm,
be like, this thing's flying to the moon, but no one's using Blackberries. But the thing is, like, most people don't beat the S&P 500 S&P 500 every year. S&P 500 is, I think, 90% of people don't get more than the percentage, which was averaging about 10 to 20%. And most people don't get that gains. So do you think it's wise for someone to try and beat the S&P 500, or should you just put all your money to the S&P 500?
Very good question. So I always say diversify. So that's my first thing, because we can trust that and we can say, hey, you know what, this thing is gonna fly and it's always gonna fly. But we can have years where, like COVID, we didn't see it perform at that certain point in time where it did. And if you disinvested at the bottom and you said, hey, you know what, I'm too scared now, the S&P 500 is obviously not going to do very well, then you locked in your loss. And that's what kind of happens to a lot of investors. They see something decline and they believe, hey, yo, it's time to lock out, and you lock yourself in that loss. My advice is this. Again, there are your stronger bets and your safer bets that you can put your vehicles into, but it's in dollars. And not everyone necessarily like has access to those facilities to put it in there, etc. I mean, I'm talking about people in rural areas that might not know how to function this or might not have the education to actually do that. So then how do they then do it? For a lot of them, it's either through stokvels or bank deposits, where they just put money into their bank account or their fixed deposit. So again, it's accessibility. Unfortunately, in South Africa, it also comes down to accessibility, which can hinder us in a way. I personally would like to say that investing in your business is also an alternative. If you are self-employed, or if you do have a skill set that you believe can outdo it, a lot of businesses in South Africa do beat that 20%.
Yeah.
So I would say personally, if you're getting to that point in your life where you believe you are now moving away from employment and you're moving to become self-employed, I'd say put that money aside for your business. Keep it in a parking vehicle like your fixed deposits, like your call accounts. Keep it in there. And whilst it's in there, keep building that kitty up so that your time horizon that you've set, maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's 3 months from now, maybe it's 6 months from now. You take the money out, you start your business and you invest your business, which I believe can actually beat that 20% a year.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's very good advice. I think you said early, what was your goal to invest? And I think it comes down to that again. Like, what do people want to invest for? They're investing for generational wealth, or what most people do, which to answer your question, and to move to the next question is probably to buy a property. And speaking of
Mm.
property, you in property financing now as well. So, moving from finance, financial advising, insurance, but now into still doing insurance, but also now doing financial, property financing. Um, what advice would you give to someone that wants to get into property, buy a property for themselves? Um, and I think I want to top this, like get to the topic of we spoke about it recently about government giving you funding for a property if you earn between a certain amount. Could you speak to us about that so people can understand it? Because there's so much of information out there, but a lot of it is nonsense. So can you reassure us of what actually is the funding for that?
Right. So there's a scale in which that you need to fit into in order to apply for that finance. Previously, this was called FLISP. It's now called First Home Finance. There's a website, firsthomefinance.co.za. Everything under the sun.
Mm.
How you qualify, how you apply, it's all there for people to see. It's such an easy thing. And I don't want to put myself on the spot and leave out any little number of information. So like everything is there under the sun. But in saying that, I'd like to also conjunction it with this and say, know that buying a property and renting is a weighted conversation. Not everyone is ready to buy a property.
Yeah.
Reason being is, with buying a property comes again ghost costs of cleaning the yard, fixing up the geyser every so once in a
Yeah.
while, etc., etc. And depending on the area that you purchase in, or the area that's closest for you to work, it might work out that renting in that area and leaving those other worries to your landlord works out more affordable. I think if I was to actually name areas, it might be easier for most people to rent in Umhlanga because levies and rates might be too expensive, as opposed to renting in Durban North or maybe Glen Anil, where it's more affordable to actually purchase. These are just juxtaposing two areas and saying, that's the conversation that you need to be having.
Mm.
If you are sitting in the salary brackets that are now looking to qualify for that first home finance as well, ask yourself, what area am I purchasing in, and am I ready to purchase in that area, or am I
What
needing
would
to
be the
look at
salary
something
bracket?
more?
Just so people know. Roughly.
I don't want to put
Roughly. The long as an OJ can't.
roughly. I think it starts about 3,500 and it closes up at about 22,500.
Yeah,
But don't hold me to that figure. Yeah,
I've seen around that, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's around that figure.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
and then you can get. It's not gonna look. It's not gonna pay for a house. I think that's what also people need to also understand. It's supposed to subsidize,
Yeah, I was
not
about
pay
to
for the whole
say
thing.
it just helps you. It helps you in a big amount, to be honest, to help you get to that space. And I think that's a very good policy that the government's doing. Um, yeah. Any other advice when it comes to, I think everyone thinks getting a property is the end goal, and I think a lot of older folk is like, just get a house, like buy a house. But like you said, there's so much of things that you got to take care of. Like for example, like you can get a job, you can get a very nice house, you're earning a decent salary, but now you lose your job, and how you paying your mortgage. And those are factors, like you said, that like sometimes renting's better. You could just go back to a family member then afterwards, and after if you're renting. Um, yeah, so what factors should people take into consideration? What if somebody wants to, I think this is another question because um, people thinking now with all the content out there internationally of buy a property, put out the rent, make money with your property, like Grant Cardone type of stuff.
Mm.
Um, how do you think people can get into that? Buying properties, listing them or renting them, to make an income out of it. Do you think it's feasible? Do you think it's something people can do? And yeah, what have you seen work in this space? And what have you seen don't work?
I think it's all time related, and the property that you're purchasing as well,
Yeah,
obviously. And the reason why I say it's time related is because if you look at it, a lot of people see what other people are doing and they want to replicate it, but they don't understand how many years it's taken to build that foundation to eventually say we're now loaning X, Y, and Z, and we're selling X, Y, and Z. And they've got property portfolios that are in excess of 10 properties. And to build that up, I'll put it to you this way, it's not just one person behind it as well. It's other investors that they've gotten along the way to join that journey to make it work out. So why I say that is if you look at the average home loan in South Africa, the lowest that they start at that the banks loan from is 10 years. So a minimum of a 10-year commitment is basically what you're getting yourself
yeah,
into. And then it can escalate all the way up to 30 years. So that's why I say it's a very big thing on timing, because obviously you can repay the loan less than 10 years. You can repay it, if you get into 30 years, you can repay it less than 30 years.
sure.
But it's also about getting the next investment, understanding who are you joining in investments to do that. And it's probably why REITs in South Africa, basically trusts of properties in South Africa, have become such a big thing where you've got multiple people purchasing into a property purchase to see the gains and to split the gains of that. Is it feasible? We've seen it work. We've seen it happen. Yes, it is. I think people just need a reality check on the timeline of it and not getting too big too fast, because the what you need to foreshadow, what you need to forecast is there not being a tenant occupying a property space.
Yeah,
What then happens to the levies, to the rates that now go along with that, and the missing rental income that you did get from that? What do you then do with that? Because it was obviously paying off a bond. So it's very strategic in the approach. There are people who have structures that have worked over the years, and we see those companies around, and they've built it up on past gains to get to this point. I think property is what will dictate generational wealth.
yeah,
Number one. Number two, I think property will also help you in just establishing yourself in a premises. I see a lot of families nowadays where properties are passed down
yes,
along the lineage of this is now your house to have. Let's share this. And that is what makes me so happy
It
because
does
we're
build like
passing along
generational
home
wealth if
ownership.
you think about it in the long run. Like, because now you're not paying a big amount of rent. For example, if you have a family of five,
Mm,
or you have like a family of five, and you maybe have like the sister or the brother staying with you guys, they both aren't paying rent, and the house is paid off. You're just paying like levies or like lights and water and stuff. And that's saving your family so much of money, I think, in the long run. And in the end goal, you could then take that money that you're saving, buy another property, and that's building generational wealth. It may take a while. It may skip, like a generation may not see it, like the family that bought the house, but the next generation could see, like you mentioned. Um, yeah, so I appreciate it. I think people can take from that advice and hopefully they can implement it. We're gonna end off soon. Um, I think a few things. I think next episode that we on, Bitcoin versus Ripple, I think it's a good conversation to have.
oh,
Um,
I'm
I've
excited for
I'm
that.
more, I'm more Bitcoin than Tim is Ripple. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. Yeah. Anyways, I think it's a good conversation to have next episode that we on crypto. I think it's a very timely conversation that's needed. I think people don't understand. I think people uh want to know about it. They don't know how to get into it. I think it's a conversation to have. I think the last question I'll leave you off with, that I kind of asked Mawanda, is like we said earlier on today's on this episode, is that um there's a bunch of unemployed kids out there. There's a lot of people that are struggling financially. There's, like you said earlier, there's people in rural townships. There's people that want to make money. They don't know how to make money. They want to help their families out. What do you think the best way practically someone can start off making money with no skills, nothing, a kid coming out of high school, someone that's in high school? I know it's a tough question to answer, but what do you think is the way? Because I think the more conversations we have like this, the more people can think in those avenues, the people that are actually being in that space, and how can they start making money to help their families, help themselves to come to a certain point where they are sustaining their family and their life.
I think it's a very big question to answer, but I'll put it
I
to you
mean, the
this way.
country has no one in the country has answered the question. Otherwise, the youth employment rate would be lower, right? So it's a tough answer question, but I think it's a question that you can answer, that you feel, right? It's not necessarily the correct answer.
Yeah, I think there's three. Everything comes in threes, and I think I've been saying a lot of threes throughout the conversation, and I'll probably say a lot of threes in our next conversations. But I'll put it to you this way: I think a lot of the successful countries worldwide, and I say successful in the sense that they've kept the economy stable, they've reduced their unemployment levels, and we've seen growth even in difficult economic global crises that we've seen around the world with
Yes.
wars ongoing. I think the one thing that has really struck out is manufacturing.
Mm,
And in order to have a successful manufacturing, you must have successful raw materials. So farming and agriculture goes hand in hand with manufacturing. And last but not least, I would say it would obviously then come down to distribution.
yeah.
So if I was to ask the next generation to invest into anything, it would be into farming. That
Mm,
is a vital resource that I think for the years to come, I think we've seen questions of sustainability as a race come to question how we're going to manage things like water shortages, things like electrical shortages. All of that starts with sustenance, and farming is the first place. Number two is then our manufacturing processes. So obviously you're going to feed into that. And I don't know if I'm answering your question as well. I think you want more of an answer that's like, what can they pick up right now, go and do, right?
yeah, basically. But I think that's also like what you're saying are still good, valid answers that I think still need to be answered. You can give us your third point and then move over to a individual. What can they do? Yeah.
I hear you. Okay. manufacturing, where maybe they're either improving or getting involved in the process of taking raw materials, and it kind of feeds into the last one, which is logistics. I
Mm.
think that is a very big gap that will eventually need to be filled once we've got the first two right. So that's the holistic answer.
Yeah.
But I think the big one, if anyone can pick up their phone nowadays, or even like get started on something, it would be education.
Yeah.
In South Africa, in South Africa in particular, it's education.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what Mawanda answered. I'm very curious to see that actually. But I think we have so much of human resource and eager potential to run out into the world and do whatever they can to make a living for themselves, that the missing component is actually just education.
Yeah.
So if you have one, and the powerful thing about education is you only need one person to
Exactly.
empower hundreds of people.
100%.
So that's where it starts. I think you learning a trade skill, you learning a one of the things that I mentioned prior, you learning that, and then you taking that out to the world, and you literally teaching as many people as you can possible
Yeah.
what you then know, to empower them to teach others. I think, if you ask me, it will have a ripple effect on the leaders of the next generation. It will empower them to be self-employed individuals,
Yeah.
which, by, I don't know what research I would have done to say this, but obvious common sense will allow for them to hire more people
Yeah.
and then earn more money whole round.
100%. I want to give a similar answer of education. I said, he said education.
Ah,
And the second one was, like you said, pick up a trade. And you were saying, like, if you need to go cut grass, go cut grass. If you need to wash some shoes, wash the car, go wash it. Like, start off there, take the capital, and then put it into a business, buying, selling stuff, whatever. So similar lines. And I think it's a good starting point. And I think um, a lot of people learn from that. I think it's in that trade of learning something, learning a skill, and then like implementing that in going to people's houses, buying, selling stuff. You learn the company, you learn the industry, you learn how to run a business, and you can take that and run it into any other business you're going in the future. So it's a starting point, and from there you can learn how to make digital money from there, like internet money, but you need the capital at first um, to go buy a laptop or go buy a phone or buy a camera or whatever you need to do. You need to raise that initial capital, and it's the hardest part. But I think once you get past that point, you're in a good space. But it is difficult, and everybody has different cards that they've dealt with in life. But the thing is, we can't complain. Unfortunately, we can sulk, but it's not going to change anything. We gotta take effort into our own personal lives and be like, listen, this is what I've been dealt, and let's go with it. Let's run with it. And yeah, you get some crazy stories. Um, one has a crazy story. You must in the next episode watch it. But crazy stuff. I don't know about it. Uh, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Timir Pyladh, Finance Fundi. Um, Anything that you want to plug? Obviously, you guys follow him on all his social media platforms. Timir Pyladh, find him there, or Finance Fundi. Search both, you'll find both of it. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok is everywhere. Find him on LinkedIn. Yeah, if you guys need any financial advice in regards to properties, chat to Tim. If you need financing, he's your guy. If you need insurance, he's also your guy. Anything you need, Tim is your guy. He does voiceovers as well. If you've seen, he heard his voice on East
uh,
Coast Radio. That's a whole different conversation that we should have. But yeah, anything you want to plug?
we've got some exciting stuff coming up in June. So if everything that Jared had said just now, to edify me, we basically encompass that, and we have an avenue for that that's coming in June. Very, very exciting. keep a lookout. Literally, yeah, like you said, follow. Literally, just search hashtag finance fundi. You'll find me on anything and everywhere, and you can keep track of what's going to be happening. It's not just one something; it's two somethings that meet together and become a beautiful space. But yeah, man. Thank you for having me, Jay.
Yeah,
A lot
thank
of
you.
fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, next time just make sure you have some waxing because every time it's just
Hey, every few minutes, I was just like,
every second it
I
doesn't
need to
stop.
talk to Matt. I need to talk to Matt to chop it, boss.
True.
This whole look, if you ask me, I think the hair did made everyone wave. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? No, it didn't. That didn't land. That didn't land.
Okay. That leaves us on a good note. Thanks to Timir Pyladh for being on the Capitalgpt podcast. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. More episodes coming soon. Cheers.